Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 63rd edition of LM's Weekly Wrap, our weekly program to cover the developments relating to the markets, what has happened in the markets, whether it is the global markets as well as the domestic markets. First of all, we start off with the global markets. I think markets are. Global markets were waiting forward to important data points with respect to the CPI data, retail data, production price index, etc. And I think we've had a satisfactory set of data points and resulting in the global markets being in good shape at the moment. However, the concerns continue to rage. We have the geopolitical tensions which are at the forefront. Apart from that, crude oil has been inching upwards. We've seen Brent crude touch around $94 a barrel. And this is definitely going to be a concern as far as the emerging markets are concerned, as far as developing economies are concerned. Even for India, it's going to be a pain point sometime in the future that the crude oil prices have started inching upwards. At the same time, the China factor is also giving a fillip to the metal prices. We are seeing the metals have also started recovering across the globe. And one of the biggest concerns at this point of time, as far as the global economy is concerned, is the climate change factor. We've got the El Nino effect, etc., and its impact, which is going to come on the food grain production, food grain shortage, etc. Globally, we've seen the food oil prices continue to escalate on account of the climate factors and on account of the geopolitical tensions. As you all know that we've seen the collapse of the Black Sea, Ukraine Black Sea grain deal, and this has resulted in the food grain prices inching up again. We've seen crude oil prices also move up in trade. So I think inflation is going to raise its ugly head again, and this might be a cause of concern for the global economy. As far as the US markets are concerned, I think we have the FOMC meet which is scheduled on 19th and 20th. So I think markets will look forward to that next week. As far as the domestic markets are concerned, we have a truncated week next during the next week on account of the Ganesh Chaturthi festivals, etc. Definitely the celebratory mood and the festival season trends will be something which the market will look forward to and study with greater effect. This week was very critical for the markets because we've seen the markets touch the 20,000. Nifty has hit the 20,000 mark and moved ahead very, very decisively from those levels too. Now we've seen markets coming close to 20,200 levels, moving up very, very decisively and confidently ahead in trade. And during the week, we have seen sector rotation becoming very, very rampant. We've seen the markets moving from one sector to another very, very fast, and we've seen a lot of support coming in from the different sectors. So first of all, we'll start off with the movers and shakers of the market. First, what we have seen, the small cap and the mid cap universe. During this week, we've seen the first instance of a sharp fall in the small cap as well as the mid cap stocks. We've seen on Tuesday, we saw that mid cap index as well as the small cap index were down by 3 and 4% respectively. And this was the first big move on the downside which we have seen, which has irked quite a few investors. And we've started receiving queries relating to the particularly with respect to the PSU stocks. Now, if we were to break up the PSU stocks into different categories, then I think we will have the defense category stocks, the defense, the railways, the general PSUs, and the PSU banks. Now, what is happening is that in the case of all these PSUs, the biggest issue is that of under ownership. There's severe amount of under ownership in the PSU stocks. So there is definitely going to be a lot of volatility which we are going to experience in these stocks. So it's better to be cautious, and if one wants to enter into these stocks at these levels, then one has to have a very long-term horizon for investment in these stocks. For example, in railways, we've already seen the stocks run up quite a lot. We've seen most of the railway stocks run up about 4 to 5 times. But this is on account of the fact that at this point of time, the railway story is still developing. It's not a 1 or 2 year story. It's a decadal story. That means it is a story which will run into the next 8 to 10 years. If one were to look at the balance sheets of most of the companies which are in the railways space, then most of these companies will look undercapitalized at this point of time. This means that every 2 years from now, if the railway story continues unabated, we will see a drastic change in the balance sheets of all the railway related companies. That means every 2 years you will see margins improving, you will see a lot of pressure on working capital, a lot of capital requirements, etc. So most of these companies will require a huge amount of capital in order to fulfill the kind of order books which are there to be executed. So I think this is not a 1 year story, or it's not a short term play at this point of time. It's at best a 1 decade story. So all the investors who are entering into the railway stocks should enter it with conviction, with a minimum 4 to 5 year horizon as far as the investing is concerned. Next is coming to the defense stocks. I think as far as the defense stocks are concerned, the biggest theme is the Atmanirbhar Bharat theme. So one has to have a full conviction in the defense story, because the order books are very, very strong at this point of time. But execution and technology transfer, this is going to be a very, very important theme to watch out for as far as the defense stocks are concerned. Nonetheless, certain defense stocks are also looking quite good in the trade. Third is the general PSU categories. If you remember, last week we had some stocks like Coal India Limited, Coal India, NTPC and GAIL. These were the biggest gainers of the last week. This is on account of the fact that we are seeing that in the near future there's going to be a bidding for rare earth minerals, for rare earth elements, etc. So I think all these mining and mineral plays are going to be very, very important, because they are going to play a very critical role in participating for all these tenders. So with keeping this story in mind, I think investors are likely to bet on these stocks also. The fourth category and the most volatile category is the PSU banks. In the PSU banks, we've seen this week a good amount of stocks which have run up, but the quality of those stocks is very, very suspect in terms of how they'll be able to sustain going forward. We believe that if there is a heightened volatility in the markets, then there will be a sharp correction in these PSU stocks, because the quality of earnings has still not been able to demonstrate itself. So to sum up, I think railways looks a very, very sustainable theme at this point of time, followed by PSU mining stocks. However, PSU defense looks a little bit shaky from the sustainability point of view, and PSU banks looks very, very vulnerable at this point of time. So this is a clear-cut approach on how to play the PSU stocks going forward. Now coming to the general markets, I think we had this week bits and pieces support to the market from different sectors. I think the star of today's session and this week's session is definitely the auto stocks. In the morning, we have read about the brokerage upgrade which has been received by Bajaj Auto. So Bajaj Auto stock up about 6% in trade, giving a very good support to the market, along with stocks like Hero MotoCorp and Eicher Motors, which have also gone up by roughly 2% each in trade. We've seen good momentum in Mahindra and Mahindra. We've seen good momentum in Tata Motors. We've seen a good order win by Ashok Leyland. So overall, I think the auto pack continues to do very, very well. Apart from this, we've also seen some good participation in the banking stocks. I think PSU banking stocks have had a very good week, but as I have said that it's looking a little bit vulnerable with respect to the quality. So that is there. Apart from this, I think we had good momentum in HDFC Bank and Axis Bank. We had with respect to capital goods, this was a kind of a lackluster week, but I think still capital goods and infrastructure, if taken together, I think it was a good week as far as Larsen & Toubro is concerned, because Larsen & Toubro continues to do very well in trade. They've been bagging continuously, they've been bagging orders. Apart from this, KEC International has also won some important orders. Apart from this, we had metal, which continues to do very well. We've seen some good momentum continue in stocks like Tata Steel and Hindalco. But in particular, Hindalco was a big gainer of this week. We've seen them tie up for aluminum coaches with an Italian company. So they will get the technology for the manufacture of the aluminum coaches and wagons, which are very helpful as far as high-speed rail is concerned. So Hindalco doing quite well with respect to the railway operations also, and for certain orders which has been backed by its subsidiary called Novelis. So I think apart from this, we had FMCG sector, which was very quiet in trade. Metals continues to do well. Pharma has been emerging as a dark horse. In today's trade, we've seen Strides Pharma do very well in trade on account of certain US FDA approvals which they have received. Lupin continues to do very well. Cipla continues to do quite well. Dr. Reddy's, Sun Pharma. I think all these stocks have been making a comeback, and the smaller stocks like smaller companies like Glenmark Pharma or the likes of Natco Pharma. And we also saw Indoco Remedies. Indoco Remedies has jumped from its 52-week lows. After making 52-week lows, the stock was up continuously for 2 to 3 sessions in trade. So pharma continues to be a dark horse in the market. And in this particular week, the completely beaten down sector, that is the IT, information technology space, has also tried to make a comeback. So we are seeing good accumulation which is happening in HCL Technologies, in Tech Mahindra, TCS, Infosys. All these stocks are definitely vying to make a comeback in the markets. So overall, as we've pointed out, that there's been no dearth of action in the markets, but bits and pieces, we've got very good contribution from all the companies taken together. In between, we also saw that cement companies were in the news, because there was some news article that prices of cement have inched up in the eastern part of the country. So we saw a few stocks which are based out of the eastern part of the country, particularly Dalmia Bharat or the likes of Shree Cement. All these stocks have moved up in trade. Yesterday we saw some very good momentum in sugar counters. And in sugar, I think after the news reports that El Nino is likely to impact the sugar production, we have seen stocks move up in trade. We had winners like Dhampur Sugar, Dwarikesh Sugar, EID Perry. All these stocks have moved up sharply in trade. Bajaj Hindustan. As far as our liking is concerned, we prefer Sri Renuka Sugars, and we like Praj Industries in this particular space. Both of them are looking quite good from a medium to long term perspective. Today, as a backup to the sugar story, we had Triveni Turbine, which was one of the biggest gainers of today's trade, and an interesting company which makes steam turbines which cater to the sugar sector, distilleries, chemical, steel, cement sector, etc. So the stock was up about 10% in trade. So few select mid cap stocks have been doing well. Some of our weekender stocks continue to perform exceptionally well in trade, though there has been slight correction post the softening of the small cap and the mid cap space. So a lot of other things to discuss, but time constraints permit us no further. We hope you liked our program. Do write back to us with your feedback on our program, and we hope to catch you again next week. Thank you very much.